So she says then it is a political move directly aimed at preventing her from running in the 2027 presidential election. She says the ruling is a violation of the rule of law, and she says that millions of French people are outraged. Today then, Marine Le Pen sitting down to begin preparing her appeal after she was convicted of embezzlement and barred from seeking public office for 5 years. A real hammer blow to her presidential hopes in 2 years' time. Well, a short while ago, the president of her party, the National Rally, has been speaking on French television and radio. Let's hear from him.
It's
a pure and simple rejection of rule of law because our right to an equitable process has been violated. There are millions of people who this morning feel that Marine Le Pen was judged with violence and brutality, unlike any other defendant, because she is Marine Le Pen, and her crime is being able to lead the national camp to victory.
Le camp national à la victoire.
Talking there in the last hour or so. Oliver Farry from our International Affairs Desk is joining me now here on set. Oliver, listening to that, and the consensus really from lots of other far-right politicians here is very much that the authorities in France have used the courts, if you like, to make Marine Le Pen ineligible.
Yeah, they really feel they've been done dirty. Marine Le Pen supporters were out on force on Monday decrying the ruling. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban declared on X, Je suis Marine, an echo of Je suis Charlie, the slogan that circulated in the wake of the Charlie Hebdo attacks 10 years ago. That's not exactly on the same plane, you could say. But Elon Musk says that when the radical left can't win via democratic vote, they abuse the legal system to jail their opponents. Now, he was referencing another post on X that put a number of very different cases of prosecution of far-right figures, Donald Trump, Jair Bolsonaro and Catalin Georgescu in Romania. Of course, they're saying that this is basically an international conspiracy against the far right. Now, not that it will convince Marine Le Pen supporters, but the National Rally leader was convicted in a court of law. It's not actually the rule of law being defeated there. It's actually the very opposite. And it was under an anti-corruption law that she herself voted for in 2016. She's also not the first major French political figure in recent years to be convicted and also be banned from holding office. This former Prime Minister François Fillon, former President Nicolas Sarkozy. Like them, Marine Le Pen will benefit from similar leniency in being allowed to serve her prison sentence on the outside wearing an ankle bracelet. And so this is obviously a sign that she is part of the establishment, so to speak. Most French people would not be treated with such leniency for a 2-year prison sentence. Marine Le Pen is going to appeal. That could be all wrapped up by the end of 2026. Given her time to run in the 2027 election, if the conviction is overturned, but that's far from a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, let's look ahead a bit then, Oliver. I mean, the big question, I suppose, for all politicians and people interested in politics here in France is whether this is going to galvanise the National Front supporters, at least, ahead of the 2027 election.
It's bound to. It certainly will, or at least those most committed to the cause already, and they'll only find vindication in this notion that their party is persecuted and shunted out by the political establishment. Even people who aren't allies of Marine Le Pen, like Jean-Luc Mélenchon of the far left, France Insoumise, and even also a former European Commissioner Thierry Breton said that they're uncomfortable with the idea of her being made ineligible. We can see in a post here by Donald Trump Jr. on X, he said that this is showing that US Vice President J.D. Vance, in his scolding speech at the Munich Security Conference, was right about European leaders ignoring their voters. By the voters, he means the plurality that vote for the far right. Meanwhile, Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini says this ruling is part of a declaration of war by Brussels. This is a complete ignoring of the separation of powers within France, never mind the fact that it's not actually an edict by Brussels. Now, we have to remember that it is a setback for the National Rally, but it's only Marine Le Pen and 8 others who are actually ruled out. The National Rally can still run in the 2027 election, so the scope there for a backlash with a replacement candidate. Having said that, outside the party, a lot of people might be spooked now by this dent to the party's probity. Marine Le Pen has already held herself above the corruption of the establishment. She even said in 2013 that any people, elected representatives who were found guilty of embezzlement should be made ineligible for life.
Yeah, as you said there, Oliver, I mean, obviously, if Le Pen is ruled out, it is not the party that's ruled out. They can put up another candidate, can't they?
Yeah, they can still run a candidate. And judging by the party's results in last year's legislative and European elections, that candidate, whoever it is, stands to do quite well. A lot of their policies are quite popular with a lot of the French people. Most signs are pointing to that candidate being Jordan Bardella, the 29-year-old party leader. He led the party list at the European elections. He is, however, untested in a white-hot contest like a presidential race, but he may actually have the advantage of not being a Le Pen. Despite Marine Le Pen's efforts at detoxifying the party, changing its name, distancing itself from her rather toxic late father, Jean-Marie, the National Rally is still very much a family business. It has, ever since 1988, it has always run a candidate in the presidential election. Marine Le Pen, despite chalking up progressively better election results over her three elections, has shown herself to be pretty lacking when it comes to a runoff in the second round, particularly in 2017 when she was disastrous in the inter-round debates. In a more meritocratic environment than the National Rally, she might have been taken aside a while back and said, maybe give someone else a go. So this conviction has forced the party's hand, at least for the moment anyway. And will this enforced change be an advantage? Well, it's too soon to say. But one thing that we will see is that we're going to see a quantifiable alternative that might not otherwise have been the case. So it's quite possible that this is not necessarily going to spell electoral doom for the National Rally.
Oliver, thank you very much. Oliver Farry, then a lot more to consider as that election comes up for us. Of course, in 2 years' time here in France, we'll be covering it, not surprisingly, perhaps, here on France 24.